Did someone say road trip? Al Smith and I certainly did. That's Al on the right, and when he decided that he would retire at the end of January 2012, we could think of no better way to celebrate than by heading to Florida for spring training. Ah, spring training. The time of year when even guys with uniform numbers in the 90s and no names on their backs can dream about making the show. To make the event even more special, we left Williamsport, Maryland on March 1st, my 55th birthday. Our goal was not only to take in as much baseball as possible, but also to play in every state in which we hadn't played already. The first night we stopped in Orangeburg, South Carolina and played catch outside of Henley Field, which was built in 1948 and was used for several scenes in Major League 3. It was also home to a South Atlantic League team in 1973 and 74. We played outside the park because it was locked up tighter than the Alamo should have been. The next day we played catch at a rest stop on I-95 in Georgia and finally reached Florida late in the morning. After some excellent barbecue for lunch and a couple more hours of driving, we arrived at our hotel in Bradenton. We didn't so much leave Maryland for Florida as we left March for summer. The Econo Lodge where we stayed had a view of a small lake, that is if you didn't mind looking through the screen in the window above the toilet. There were no games on Saturday, our first full day in Florida, so we ventured to Siesta Key Beach, which is rated the #1 beach in the country. Thanks to the fine quartz sand and a strong wind coming off the Gulf, it certainly is the #1 beach for sandblasting the skin off your shins. On Sunday, we attended the Baseball Industry Network luncheon at Henley Field, Pittsburgh's spring training home. Host Tyrone Brooks, the group's founder, is also the Pirates' Director of Player Personnel. Lunch was held outside the Pittsburgh clubhouse in the bullpen, which allowed us to get real close to Pirate prospect A.J. Cole, as well as that day's starter Eric Bedard. The Pirates opened their spring season against Toronto, and let's just say that it was a bit windy. After the game, we unwound at a quiet little spot for dinner. Monday night, it was on to Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota for the Orioles home opener. Since it was the opener, we wore our very best shirts and settled into our seats in left field. The next morning, we found a beautiful baseball complex in which to play. We took batting practice, and Al broke in his special retirement bat. Not limiting ourselves to just the pro game, we ventured to Tampa on Tuesday to see the University of South Florida Bulls. We drove across the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, past Tropicana Field, and grabbed a bite to eat at another local establishment. The USF Bulls play in a beautiful stadium, and we had a chance to talk to Todd Brazile, who played for the Stanton Braves in 2009. Our itinerary was full for Wednesday as we visited the Buck O'Neil Baseball Complex in Twin Lakes Park to see the Oriole minor leaguers practice. Then we went back to Ed Smith Stadium in the afternoon to see the Orioles take on the Braves. We really enjoyed watching the baby birds work out as we were close to the action at all times. Back at Ed Smith, we took in the park, wandered around, and enjoyed the game. Al was very happy to be 917 miles from Aberdeen, since that's where he worked. That evening, we enjoyed the sunset at Holmes Beach on Anna Maria Island in Bradenton. Obviously, there was no game that night. Thursday was a repeat of Wednesday in that we went to the minor league complex in the morning, and then in the afternoon saw the Orioles play the Twins from our seats in the left field picnic area once again. However, we also attended Reed Gingrich's 13-14 Babe Ruth League game at 6 o'clock and thoroughly enjoyed dinner with the Gingriches afterwards. Reed, seen here singling in the first inning, is Jake Gingrich's little brother. Jake, on the right, is a 3-year Newmarket Rebel who is attending Florida Southern College with another Rebel, T.J. Cuban, on the left. We saw FSC play on Friday night in Lakeland, but not before visiting Anna Maria Island that morning for another day at the beach. Florida Southern College plays at Henley Field, which was the spring training home of the Detroit Tigers from 1934 to 1966. If you attend a game at historic Henley, be sure to use the men's room. Here you'll find embedded in the tile a photo of what I believe is the starting infield for the 1936-37 Tigers. I couldn't tell you if there's anything similar in the ladies' room. The next day we went to see the Tigers play the Nationals at Joker Marchant Stadium, and it was great to get a photo of Al on K-Line Drive. Al's dad was a teammate of Al K-Line's at Baltimore Southern High School in the early 50s. The Tigers minor league complex surrounds the ballpark, and plenty of fans had staked out territory beyond the outfield fence in hopes of catching a souvenir. Joker Marchant Park sits by beautiful Lake Parker, and the surrounding neighborhood certainly has a homey feel to it. We arrived plenty early for the game, and who should we run into but Tom Linsky, the former general manager of the Newmarket Rebels, who serves as an usher at Joker Marchant. Justin Verlander started for the Tigers that day, and their fans were very excited by Detroit's all-star lineup that includes Miguel Cabrera at third. It was a beautiful day at a beautiful park. And by the way, the nachos are beautiful there too. At this point, we had seen 8 games in 7 days, and it had become hard to answer this guy's uniform question. Sunday we went to Kissimmee, but we were rained out. By this time, we were staying with a friend of Al's in the Villages. Now, I don't know who designed the golf course there, but clearly he has a warped sense of humor. Look closely. Who puts trees in a sand trap? That's a double indignity. Anyway, Monday morning we ventured to the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex at Disney Resorts International to visit with a couple of former Newmarket Rebels who are pitching in Atlanta's system. We watched the minor leaguers work out and then caught up with Chris Masters and Blaine Sims, 2 left-handers who are making great progress in their quest to make the major leagues. We enjoyed a victory of our own that day. We picnicked in the parking lot, thus becoming the only human beings in history to have visited Disney World without spending any money. Slowly we began to make our way north on Tuesday, finding another ballpark in which to play in Palatka, Florida. Again, we played catch, we batted, and we dreamed of our younger days. After staying with friends from high school that night, we headed home in earnest, but not before finding one more great ballpark, this one in Huntersville, North Carolina, which is the hometown of Hall of Famer Hoyt Wilhelm. This complex was dedicated to Wilhelm, and we played on a diamond that actually had synthetic turf in the infield. I blogged about our trip at every step and spread the Seamheads.com name wherever we went. We saw some interesting things along the way. Waterfowl were everywhere, and ballpark light standards seemed to be a favorite nesting site for birds of prey. Speaking of birds, we also saw a giant oriole. It was the trip of a lifetime, and we hope that every baseball fan gets a chance to take such a journey. Thanks for sharing ours with us. From Al, me, a random Pittsburgh Pirates fan, and Marty Marauder, so long from spring training.